o'clock. Let's see, I'll talk to my wife. March 19th, 1991, in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It's a beautiful day here, and everybody is happy to get out on this beautiful March 19th day. This is another in a series of interviews with World War II veterans, those who took part in the big World War II that was on from 1941 through 1945. Today we've got a special treat that we're going to have. Ladies have played an important part in wars all through ages, and World War II was no exception. And so, to start out with, I might also say that these tapes are being made for the Montgomery County Historical Society. They will be placed in the library. They will be property of the Montgomery County Historical Society. And also, there's a good chance that they will be copyrighted, so that people in future generations can use them. As I mentioned before, we have a lady veteran of World War II today, and at this time, Pat, we're sure happy to have you with us. What is your full name, Pat?
I was Patricia May O'Neill, and I married Don Wilson from Wakey, Indiana.
Where were you born?
Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis, who were your parents?
My father was William F ONeill. He had a lot to do with the I'm watching.
With the American Legion?
With the American Legion, and he had a lot to do with making the Bill of Rights part of their contingent. So when the boys came home from service, they were given the right to go to school, to further their education, and to better themselves.
Well, what was his official capacity?
He was director of rehabilitation for the state of Indiana.
I see. Was he a veteran?
He was a veteran of World War I.
World War I. I see. Now, Pat, did you have brothers and sisters?
I had a brother and a sister, and my brother was in the Navy.
I see.
My sister, she stayed home.
Oh, I see. Your sister didn't go in. Mm-hmm. And was your brother drafted into the service?
Well, he joined the Navy. He thought as long as he had a bed to sleep in, it would be clean.
I see. Yes. It's not real unusual, but I might ask you, not drafting women, why did you go into service?
Well, I thought it would be something different. I like to travel, and I didn't know whether I'd ever get the chance to travel like I did. And so I took advantage of it. And I think it was one of the best things I ever did.
I see.
I got to meet people that I would never get to meet otherwise. I got to sing for the Prime Minister of Australia. Now, not everybody gets to sing for the Prime Minister.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. What did your mom and dad think about you going in the military?
Well, Dad thought it was the greatest thing that ever was. And Mother thought she couldn't fight both of us. So she let it go.
So you went into service. When did you go into the service?
January the 9th, 1943.
I see. What branch of the service did you go in?
I was in the Army. At first, when I first went in, I was in the, I sold war bonds. And then I was in the clerk's office in the well, where they kept records.
Yeah.
Records clerk is what they call it.
When you, where did you go to volunteer to be in the service?
To the courthouse there, or to the post office there in Indianapolis on Ohio Street.
Mm-hmm. Where did they send you for your basic training?
Oh, that was Daytona Beach, Florida. We got to go down on the train, which was at that time exciting for me. When I was watching the railroad tracks go by and thinking, getting further and further away from home. But it was interesting. Met a lot of people, which I think is what did me more good than anything else.
Might I ask you how old you were when you went in the service?
If you don't stop to count it up, it is now.
All right.
I was 20.
You were 20. Let's see. Young lady. Now, this basic training, how long were you at Daytona Beach?
6 months, or excuse me, 6 weeks.
6 weeks. What did you do with basic training?
Well, we climbed rope ladders and ran the miles around the course. I think they made us go so many miles at a time. And it was mostly like the men's, although the men at that time were given more military training than we were. We were not given military training as they have now. Now I understand that they have teach you how to handle guns and military weapons of all kinds.
Did you march?
Yes. Every Saturday we had to march for the general. He could have used it marching himself.
He didn't know how to march?
Well, he could use it.
I see. Did you meet a lot of friends in basic training?
Yes. And one of the first people I met here was a girl from Crawfordsville. Her name was Peggy Glasscock. And I met her when we were getting ready to go overseas. Now, she's lived here in Crawfordsville for years, and we got to kind of meet each other, you know, but didn't see that much of her. She's ill now. She lives at the Veterans Home
In Lafayette?
in Lafayette.
I see. Could you give us a typical day in your life while you were in basic training? Like what time you got up and what you ate and what you did, what time you got, before?
Well, they got us out at daylight, or it's supposed to be daylight. The sand on the beach was white, and it was cold enough that I thought it was snow. You know, I have a good imagination. In the snow. And we got up at 5 o'clock, and we had to have our rooms ready for inspection by 6 o'clock. Then we had breakfast at 6:15 to 6:30. Then we came back, and then we did, well, they taught us more about the Army discipline and Army, the way of Army life. I think that's about it.
What time then would you retire in the evening?
In the evening, we would get off at 5 o'clock and have our evening meal. Well, of course, we had lunch at noon. In the evening, we had our evening meal at 5. But at that time, we were in what they call blackout rooms. When you couldn't go to Daytona Beach as such because of the blackout restrictions at that time.
I see.
Hadn't thought of that for years.
Where did you go when you left Daytona Beach?
Went to Camp Campbell, Kentucky.
What did you do there?
And there is where I sold war bonds. And I can't imagine me selling war bonds because I'm very shy. Whether you believe it or not.
Well, you had a reason to sell them, didn't you?
Well, he wanted us to do it. And it really wasn't hard because the boys felt that this was a part of our life. And it gave us a few bucks to put back when we got out. We could have something to fall back on.
How long were you at Camp Campbell or Fort Campbell?
I was at camp. We was at camp for quite a while. I was there, and we went in March. And in September, the only way I remember it is because it was a Jewish holiday, and I was transferred to the headquarters, First Service Command. And at that time, they put me in medical division, where I kept records of all the people's illnesses, hurtings, and so forth. And then I was put into the dental office, dental clinic, and I worked with the major for 4 months. It was longer than that, but I worked with him for several months, and then I was transferred overseas.
From Fort Campbell?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When was that? When did you go overseas? What date?
In March of 84.
44?
44.
March of 1944. Where did you go first?
First we went to
where you caught your ship, that's what I mean.
where on the ship. Well, we went to, well now, see, I'm getting all confused. We went to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and then we were sent to across the country on a train.
Troop train?
Troop train, regular troop train. We stopped at all the little towns in Nevada and cleaned them out. Whatever they had, we bought it.
The troop train that you were on, did you have beds to rest on in the troop train?
Yes, we had beds, and we had to make them up every morning.
How did you eat?
Well, they served just like regular Army style in the train, on the train.
In other words, the whole train was GIs?
The whole train was
then?
GIs. Mostly women.
Mostly women?
Mostly women.
I see.
The Army was supposed to guard us.
The Army was supposed to guard you. Okay, now where did the troop train go out on the West Coast then?
To Camp Stoneman, Arizona, in San Francisco, which wasn't too far from the base where we got onto the ship. And we went on the SS Matsonia, which was one of the finer troop ships. It wasn't a troop ship. It was a. Come on, fellas, help me out. It was a fine ship, and everybody. Well, they had six beds high.
I see.
Where you could slip out of your bed sideways.
Mm-hmm. Was the ship, did it have GIs,
Yes, a lot of
men
GIs.
on it as well as ladies?
Yes, and they had a big celebration when they crossed the equator, where they initiated all of the people who had never been across the equator before.
To initiate you?
Initiated me, but they didn't do it like they did them. They gave us our little card that says that I'm a shellback, which was great because my brother was in the Navy and he never got to get across the equator.
Did aboard the ship? Did you? Was the chow? How was the food?
Well, they used to say it was terrible, but I look back now and it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad. How many days were you on the ship?
We were on the ship for 15 days, which was at that time very fast because we had the Prime Minister of Australia on board ship, and the idea was to get him back to Australia as soon as possible.
I see.
There were no what they call guard ships or convoys. They just took the straight line, and yet it took us 3 times that long to get back to the United States from the Philippines.
I see. Was the ship blacked out at night?
Yes.
Did it zigzag across the ocean or go in a straight line?
It went pretty straight to get across, go when we were going. And I think that that was a precautionary measure of some kind.
Did you volunteer to go overseas?
Yes.
In other words, they didn't say, like some of us, you have to go. You volunteered to go.
No.
Did you know where you were going?
Well, I thought I was going to England, but I didn't quite make it.
Well, you were close. You went the other direction.
Well, the English talking in Australia.
That's right. Well, where did you land with your troop ship?
Well, we landed in Brisbane, Australia on the 3rd of July. And it was a beautiful ship. Well, that's all I can say. And Australia itself was another big, magnificent place. It was semi-tropical. And we used to brag about all the strawberries. Strawberries being about that big around. You could eat a whole strawberry sandwich.
That sounds good.
It was good.
Yeah. Just to back up a little bit, the ship you were on, did you have recreation of any type?
Well,
while you were going?
they did try to have dances, but it was inside of the ship. And now if we were out on deck, it was all right, but when you were inside, it got a little bit warm.
I
So
see.
you didn't like to.
Did you have any alerts of enemy submarines or planes?
Yes, we were alerted several times, but we did not see them. I mean, we did not see any signs of troop ships.
You mentioned you didn't have any destroyers or anything around you. Did you have guns aboard the ship?
Yes, there were guns on board the ship. They had them all over, but it wasn't just like you see them in the movies now.
Did they have some practice?
They had practice shelling.
What did you have to do when you had one of the practice
Get out of the
drills?
way.
Get out of the way. Well, that was a good thing to do, wasn't it?
Well, it was easier to do that.
Right. I was thinking, Pat, what years, backing up a little bit, you were in what most of us thought of as the WACs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You were a WAC service
They put
lady.
me in postal service.
Okay. Well, we're about ready to get off the ship in Australia, and as you said, they have strawberries that were, is that big?
Mm-hmm.
How-
At least.
All right. And I think,
I exaggerate, though, you know.
I see. I think at this time, if we can get the cameraman's attention here, we'll stop for a short pause. And now we're back live, taping the interview with Pat Wilson, who was in the WACs during World War II. I might say that my name is Clare Chamberlain, and I live here in Crawfordsville, associated with the American Legion, Post 72, and the VFW, Post 1431. Some of the other gentlemen that are instrumental in getting this series together are our cameraman, Ed Miller, of the local American Legion and VFW, Bob Wernley, a semi-retired attorney, a past president of the Montgomery County Historical Society and now one of its directors. He is not able to be with us today. He's tied up with some family illness, I believe, in Indianapolis. Also, we have Mike Hall, who is the executive director of the Montgomery County Historical Society and takes care of tours and so forth here at the Lane Place. That about takes care of the people that are involved in this series of interviews. Pat, we're about ready to get you off the ship over in Australia. Tell us a little bit more about how long you were in Australia and what you did there.
We were in Australia from July until...
Now, what year? 44.
44.
All right. Okay.
And we were there until September of 44. That's when we went to work in Port Moresby, Guinea. And
You left Australia.
We left Australia.
Well, let's get back to Australia. You took the Prime Minister there. How close did you get to the Prime Minister of Australia?
Close enough that I could almost touch him. But we sang religious music for him, and he was really, really a super person. Of course, at that time, I don't think super was the word. But anyhow, he was nice, and he talked about how nice I could sing. He should only hear me now. But he was good about it. He did have us in for tea and crumpets. And you see, only I would think, remember that.
But on Australia, how long were you there?
In Australia, from July the 3rd of July until about the 28th of September.
September. And then you left Australia and went to New Guinea. How did you get to New Guinea?
We went up on the, and only fellows that was on that train will know what I mean. The Tunerville trolley. It was a narrow gauge train, and it would wobble back and forth like this. Didn't get seasick, but then it was kind of a frightening thing. I thought maybe it was going to tumble over one or two times, but it didn't. And of course, we had a lot of people on that train. And we had to get to New Guinea, up to Townsville, Australia, where we got onto a troop ship that took us up to Port Moresby.
Was the troop ship, did it have GIs on it?
It had GIs who were coming back from Brisbane, Australia, or even Sydney, and other towns down Townsville, and Kangaroo, where they were on what they call rest and recreation. They had been in battles with the Japanese up in the Philippines and in New Guinea.
Where did you land in New Guinea?
In Port Moresby, New Guinea.
I see. What did you do there? What?
You mean what kind of work? I took pictures of email letters. Do you remember the email letters?
Yes.
And we took pictures of those and sent them back. We could send back thousands of letters on these little cardboard boxes about like that. Is that sufficient? Yeah, it was about like that.
Right. Was the island secure from the enemy?
The island was supposedly secure.
I see. Did you have any air raids there, or any strafings from the enemy, or?
The only time we had one was at Biak one time, and some Japanese got through, skid under the radar.
That wasn't on New Guinea, though.
Yes, Biak is part of New Guinea.
Part of New Guinea. Did you hear the bomb?
Yeah, oh yes.
What did you do when you heard that?
I went under the bed.
You are. What did everybody else do?
Same thing. we hid as though that bed would do us any good. But it was our idea of safety.
How many miles away do you feel that the bomb was when it went off?
Well, I have no idea, about 10 or 15 miles.
Did you hear guns shooting?
Just the one bomb went off.
Didn't hear any anti-aircraft guns?
No,
Or?
there was no anti-aircraft guns there. It was just enough to scare us all half to death.
I see. What, was that the only air raid that you had while you were on New Guinea?
That was the only air raid we had.
What was a typical day there? What time did you get up in the morning, and what did you do during the day? What did you have to eat?
Well, it wasn't too bad, the food itself. The Australian people were trying to learn how to prepare food that we know how to eat and to cook and use the ground that they have there in New Guinea to grow food for the people there to eat. Now to them, one of their greatest treats was a rat.
Oh my goodness.
And the rats were bigger than cats. And in fact, the major people in New Guinea who were doing this, they kept rats in the rafters of their houses to get the rats.
Hmm.
So in case you're interested, those snakes were pretty handy, even pretty handy.
I would think so. It doesn't sound too appetizing to me. Did you eat any of their rat meat?
No, I had a little trouble with the wallabies.
What's
Now,
that?
a wallaby is a small kangaroo. And there was a dispensary down the road from where we worked, and we could smell where the fellows were cooking some stew. And it smelled good. You know, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but onions and potatoes and carrots and things like that always smell good.
Mm-hmm.
And they were fixing this, so we went down to watch them cook this, and they gave it to us, and it was fine,
Mm-hmm.
just great,
Mm-hmm.
until I found out it was a wallaby.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Pat. While you were on the New Guinea, was it legal to have a date?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the dates, the fellows could not take us out without weapons, guns or something to protect us in some way. In fact, one time a guy came to pick up his girlfriend, and they put him up there, and none of them had handguns. And they told him they could not take any of the girls out without the weapons. And then when we got there, why they said, no, you can't go, you don't have any weapons. And they went out and they got a machine gun, had it mounted up on the engine of their Jeep. So they let us go.
Were there, as there were on some other islands, were there still some Japanese back in jungle areas or hidden areas that caused them to have to be very careful?
Oh, yes, yes. And especially when we got to the Philippines, why the Philippines did not want to give it up very easily.
Okay, let's stay on New Guinea. Where did you go from New Guinea?
Well, from New Guinea we went to Biak for 3 weeks, and then we went to Lady, which is an island.
All right, now what is that? You went from New Guinea to what?
Lady.
No, the one before that.
Biak.
Biak. Where is Biak?
Well, it's north of, it's on a small island north of New Guinea.
Was it secure from the
Supposedly,
enemy?
supposedly, that's where the bomb dropped.
Oh, that's where the bomb dropped.
That's where the bomb dropped. It slipped through somehow.
I see. Yeah. Did you see any other enemy while you were on that
No.
island for 3 weeks?
No,
Did they bring any enemy in that they
No.
picked up on patrol?
no, we never saw any of those.
Right.
We felt perfectly safe.
Did you, at this time, were you getting, you talked about working with the mail, were you getting mail from home?
Oh, yes. There was one problem. My brother's wife had a little baby when we were there, and they kept saying, well, she had they went to see the baby, and then they bought this for the baby, and they bought that for the baby. And it took me 6 weeks to find out that the baby was a girl. You know, you get kind of discouraged waiting for it here. Well, we got a girl or a boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's still that way, you know.
Sure, I know what you mean. From there, you went to Wakey.
Mm-hmm.
Whereabouts in Wakey?
It's at San Joaquin. And there is a lot of, there was some 400-year-old churches there. And the natives there in the Philippines, now it would seem like we knew more about the natives in New Guinea than we did in the Philippines, but the people in Lady were more, what I would have called more civilized than they were in People in New Guinea, you might want to edit this. The admiral of the ship thought that he ought to dress the women up a little bit more. And he sent them all out with skivvies, the boys called skivvy shirts. And so they give them all these skivvies to wear. But when they got them, they cut the holes in the strategic spots. I shouldn't have said that, should I? You can go ahead and edit it.
Well, we'll let it go for now. All right, you're on Wakey. And what did you do on Wakey?
I was still with the post office. We still had to take pictures and take them out it was a boring job because you just sit there day after day or hour after hour putting the letters in there to be sure they didn't get torn and send thousands of letters in just a little bit of time.
Yeah. Did you have a pretty good idea of how the whole war was going against Japan and Germany? While you were there, did you get did you have mail and did you have newspapers?
Yes, we had, of course, the Army Times and so forth, but and we had the news, like we have here, they had here in the States where they told us the battles they had here and the battles that they had in other towns. We'd see the Battle of Britain and so forth, like they had here.
Some of the gentlemen that were in the Navy and also some in the Army mentioned that they quite frequently picked up Tokyo Rose on the radio.
Oh,
Did you
yes.
ever hear her?
Oh, yes.
What'd she say?
Well, she was a rather intelligent woman. She probably thought her bread was buttered on the other side. I don't know. But she was smart. She was, in my opinion, of course, I don't know how to judge them. But she got her message across to them boys, but it didn't bother her.
Tried to get it across.
Yeah.
Right.
And she couldn't do that.
How long were you on Wakey?
You see now, we were there in September, and we got out of there in October of 45.
You were there almost a year then?
Yes.
Would this be the island where some way or another you found out that your brother might be in that
Yes.
locale?
We were there a night, we had an automobile wreck. And I had broken my back.
For goodness sake.
I was laying there and I couldn't do much. When you wanted to move anything, you picked up your hips and walked with your elbows. If you've ever tried that, that's fine. And
How did you, was it an Army vehicle that you were in then?
yes, we were in an Army vehicle, and we had about 10 of us in the Army vehicle. And then it was another truckload of GIs. See, we had an inkling that the peace was coming at that time. They kept saying, well, the Japanese are about ready to surrender, and we kept hoping, that they would. And I was laying in bed, and I was hurting real bad, and I kept saying, wonder why I didn't go ahead and die. And just about that time, my brother stuck his head around the doorway, and I took one look at him, and I said, that's the reason I didn't die.
How did he happen to be able to get ashore?
Well, his ship was there, and it was out in the bay. They'd been at, I can't think of the island now. Well, I'll think of it.
Was it one of the big battles?
Well, he had a minesweeper. He was on a minesweeper.
Wouldn't have been around Okinawa, or?
Yes, he was at Okinawa, and so his ship come in, and they'd been hurt. Hurt. They'd been butchered up quite badly. And when he told all the guys he had a sister there, even the captain was ready to ship him out. And of course they were out in the middle of the bay where they couldn't get everything, they needed. And he got to come ashore every time the ship come ashore so he could find his sister.
I see.
Which was one of the best things that ever happened to both of us.
Right. Well, they had a kind of a selfish motive for that too, didn't they, Pat?
Well, they thought that since he had an inside track with a few of the guys. But it was funny for my brother, and I don't know whether he knows it yet to this day, but he was interested in seeing that I got, my boys kept the track of me. He had friends that say, now you see that she doesn't get in with the wrong crowd. I'd only been in the service 3 years, and
he was watching out for you.
Watching out for my sister.
Oh, yes. Did you, were you on Wakey when the war ended then, Pat?
Well, I had just gotten out of the hospital after having my back broken. And the song they kept singing, and I never thought I'd ever forget that song. We'll meet again someday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the theme song at that time. Getting out of the Navy was going home, and we were going to go home, and we'd meet again someday. We didn't, but we said we would.
You left from Wakey to come back to the US of A then?
Yes, we went to Seattle, Washington.
Did you come back on a ship?
Came back on General Hahn.
I see. What was life like on that ship?
Oh, it was a small ship, and it was traveling rather high rate of speed along with the storm that we had, and the ship would go by the tray, the plate. They had plates with felt on, and as we go by our plate, we'd get a bite to eat. Now, of course, if we'd been just getting on that ship, we'd have had a bunch of sick wax. Everybody on there would have been sick.
Were you able to walk then from your back injury?
At that time, yes.
You were mended then and able to get around. And then when you got to Washington, where did you go from there?
Well, that's when we was getting ready to come home.
Did you come on a troop train?
Yes, we took troop train to Fort Sheridan, Illinois. And then they sent us on.
Is that where you were discharged from? That you're discharged there. Then what did you do when you got out of the service?
Well, I had trouble making up my mind what I wanted to do. And I finally decided that I wanted to go back to college, and I went to college and surprised a few of my friends.
I see. Yeah. Somewhere along in there, I believe you met a certain gentleman.
No, it wasn't in there.
It wasn't in college?
It wasn't in college.
Where did you and Don meet?
I like to tell everybody that it was in a hotel room.
Keep talking.
Well, it just sounds kind of wicked,
Yeah.
How did you meet him in a hotel room? But the thing of it was, had I tried to come to Wingate, which is a little place out here.
Sure.
If I'd come to Wingate looking for Don Wilson that done me wrong, I'd never found him. Because none of them called him Don, they all called him Kenny Wilson instead of Don Wilson.
Right. Then you met, I believe, at a convention, did you?
Yeah, the Legion Convention.
Legion Convention. Don always told me that he went to one
Too many.
Legion Convention too many. That's where you met.
That's where we met.
Right. That would have been in about like 1947. I see. How many children do you have, Pat?
6.
You have?
5 boys and a girl.
I see.
I have 1 boy in Saudi right now.
Okay.
And 1 in Germany. Now it's my daughter that's there with her husband. And the boys are scattered around.
You've had several that have been in the military.
Yes, and one was in the Navy, and now, of course, he's out on his own now. He's getting married. He's married. So,
How many grandchildren do you have?
wait a minute, 14.
14 grandchildren.
Mhm.
Goodness. Do you ever have a reunion or get together with any of the ladies that you served with overseas or any place in the military?
No. I've got one girl left that I write to. The rest of them all came over. I mean, we wrote for years, and then after that, we just kind of drifted away. When you've been separated as long as we have, you kind of forget.
Are you glad that you volunteered to join the military?
I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Now, of course, the Army is not for everybody, and I feel like it's one of the best things I ever did, because I was very shy, and it took the Army to get me at least kind of straightened out and easy to talk to people. Because I did do a lot of things that you couldn't do very often. I remember not too long ago they had a story about the Kennedys and what the things that they were doing when he was going to be the president of the United States. And I thought it was very interesting because they were talking about the mayor of Boston, Mayor Maurice Toder. Got to dance with him too.
Where did you dance with him?
In Boston, they had a big rally. If you've never been to a big Democrat rally in Boston, you don't know what you missed. It was fun for me.
Oh, that's great. Well, Pat, this has been very enjoyable. I sure appreciate you being willing to give us this information. And I want to thank you, and the Historical Society wants to thank you. And God bless you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you.